A lifelong Democrat who campaigned for Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders is now leaving the party and becoming a Republican. In an op-ed, Will Pierce writes, "The main reason I'm leaving the Democratic Party is its utter disconnect with the American people. The party that once championed the working class has now been overtaken by elites and affluent hubs who couldn't care less about the struggles of the average American." That author, Will Pierce, joins me now. Will, great to have you on the program. Look, you weren't just a Democratic voter. You were practically a Democratic Party operative. So what was the final straw for you?
I think over the years, the party has changed from its ideals. I personally view politics as a game of addition. You have to get to 50% plus one and unite people all the way around. If you look at the Democratic Party right now, they'd rather put people in boxes and label them rather than unite them.
Do Democrats just not care about the voters that they say they care about?
I think it's changed over years. Just if you just look at recent races, like look down in Houston versus Sheila Jackson Lee, for example. This is pretty much a lead of 4 years in the Democratic Party, and her votes were just abysmal, around 30%. And it's just people in the Democratic Party, they just do not understand about the needs of all. If you look at today, for example, with Zelensky going up to the Capitol, the Democrats care more about what's happening in Kiev than what's going on the southern border. They care more about just ideological stuff, such as who you are as a, it's more about basically just like what you are, your gender, your race, et cetera, than who you are as a person.
Well, the rot starts at the top. And in a new poll from the Wall Street Journal, 60% of voters disapprove of Joe Biden's economy, followed by 64% disapproval of Joe Biden's border. Over half disapprove of Joe Biden's handling of the war in Israel. So, Will, how much is Joe Biden to blame for people like you leaving the Democratic Party?
I'll be honest. When I supported Biden back in 2015, 2016, I was looking at his record over the years, and that's the main reason why I supported the president. At this point, though, if you look at just the economy, if you look at where we are as a nation, if you look at where we are as a people, he has not done what he promised to do, or just as he's supposed to do as president. He's supposed to unite us. Instead, he's dividing us, and it just starts at the top, as you said, Todd.
It's happening, gang. Another Democrat has left the woke reservation and has joined forces with the new and rising America First GOP, the grand old Patriot Party. We're going to see the latest defection, how he's not alone, and how you can help your woke friends and family do the same. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. If you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, just a personal note here, as many of you know, we have unfortunately been completely and totally demonetized, which is putting our daily communication with one another at risk like never before. As Elon Musk so powerfully said last week, the whole point of these demonetization efforts is to deliberately try to make us patriots feel like we're all alone. They wanted to sever our relationship with each other and force us into a kind of digital solitary confinement so as to demoralize us and discourage us like never before. But unfortunately for these big tech oligarchs, they don't understand patriots. You see, over the last several days, you have carried this channel like never before. We've had more people than ever make the courageous decision to bypass big tech and join our Insiders Club, where we have direct access to one another that can never be interrupted by big tech overlords. Literally thousands of you have come to our rescue, and you've done it in two ways. You've signed up for our free newsletter, and you've officially joined our Insiders Club. Just those two acts alone are enough for us to collectively stand together and never, ever have our relationship severed. So I'm inviting the rest of you to do the same. Just by clicking on the link below and signing up for our newsletter and joining our Insiders Club, you are guaranteeing that there is nothing that big tech can ever do to get between us and make us feel like we're in digital solitary confinement. It's as simple as clicking on the link below right now and opting into our free email newsletter. And once you do that, you can financially support us by joining our Insiders Club. Gang, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot thank you enough for your support during this time. You are my heroes, and it will be my mission to express my appreciation for every single one of you each and every week. So that was the amazing Will Pierce, a former Democrat fundraiser for both Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, publicly announcing his defection from the Democrat Party and is joining up with the new Trump-inspired Republican Party. Now, Needless to say, Will is not alone. The Washington Free Beacon just published an astonishing report that found that over the last 20 years, get this, 4 times as many Democrat state lawmakers have switched to the Republican Party than the other way around. All told, 83 Democrat legislatures have defected and joined the GOP in the last several years compared with the only 23 Republicans who became Democrats. 5 of those blue to red switches happened just this year alone. And what you just heard from Will Pierce was brilliant in terms of precisely why so many are switching parties. Will recognizes the key flaw, the fatal futility inherent in the Democratic Party and the strength and enduring power of the new Trump Republican Party. Again, this is absolutely key for you to remember in terms of talking with woke friends and family members. He rightly notes that the key to understanding the difference between the two parties hinges on this notion of identity politics. And the key with identity politics is identity politics always divides as much as it unites. It always excludes as much as it includes. It always disenfranchises as much as it franchises. And it's very simple to see how. For the left, identity politics unites victim groups. This is why left-wing liberals have thus far been able to create a coalition between LGBT activists on one hand and Muslims on the other. Obviously, you would think that these two groups don't really have a lot to do with each other. In fact, they're rather antithetical to one another, especially when it comes to sexual ethics, but not in the world of the identity politics of the Democrats. There, both the LGBT community and the Muslim community share a common identity, and that is they're both supposedly victims of discrimination. So if victimhood is the basis for unity in leftist identity politics, then who gets excluded? Victimizers, oppressors. Those are the legitimate objects of disdain and resistance. And where do you find those victimizers and oppressors? You find them right here in the same country, the same nation as the supposed victims. So left-wing identity politics, by definition, divides the nation to two fundamental groups of people: victims and victimizers, oppressed and oppressors. But you'll notice that's fundamentally the opposite of the America First MAGA movement. And that's because identity politics is completely reimagined in nationalist populist terms, in terms that benefit the whole of the American people. That's the whole nationalist populist paradigm. So from a MAGA perspective, an America First perspective, there are no competing identities within the nation. And that's because from a nationalist perspective, the nation is its own identity. To be American is to belong to a national race of people. So in this sense, Trump speaks to whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Latinos, gays, straight, all as Americans. If you read or listen to Trump's speeches, they're fascinating. The rhetoric of identity politics, which involves concerns over racial discrimination, injustice, prejudice, disenfranchisement, that's still there. Trump is very concerned about discrimination, disenfranchisement. But you'll notice that he redefines those concerns in thoroughly nationalist populist terms. So he talks about economic discrimination as a result of unfair globalist trade deals. Trump focuses on employment disenfranchisement in the disappearance of industrial manufacturing jobs to a globalized division of labor. He talks about a pay prejudice and the driving down of wages due to mass unfettered illegal immigration that disproportionately affects black men in the workforce. You see, Trump deals with race and identity, but from a very different vantage point than I think anyone in the legacy media can understand. For Trump, our common nationalist identity unites us as a people. And the policies of the government are supposed to benefit us as one people. So who gets excluded? Who gets disenfranchised in this nationalist populist model? Well, frankly, all those outside of America. Do you see the difference? Trump sows division, as it were, outside of the nation or between nations, whereas Democrat identity politics sow division where? Inside the nation. Trump's America First policies pit America versus China or America versus Mexico, whereas Democrat identity politics pit one group of Americans, the victims, over and against another group, the victimizers. Democrat identity politics is inherently divisive and debilitating. And as we just saw with Will Pierce, a former Democrat operative, it's causing more and more people to defect and join forces with a truly unifying politics. They want to embrace a politics that benefits all Americans and leave behind an identity politics that, by definition, seeks to benefit only some.